I don't know, Judge. I talked to her just a few minutes ago, and she's certainly aware of everything.
Right. Is the mother here? No.
Your Honor, I knew the mother was having trouble and struggles with trying to get on before, and I talked to Susan about it this morning, and so she may have had to get together with her client to get her on.
Who is Alexa Smith?
That is Joseph Fernandez and the mom's eldest daughter.
Okay, Alexi. Okay. Has anybody talked to Susan in the last 10 minutes?
Talk to who, Judge? Maybe more like 15, 20 minutes ago, but yes, ma'am.
Judge, I just sent her a text. She said she's fixing to get on the call real quick. Get on. Court.
Okay, Ms. Potts, you know where your client is?
Yes, Judge, I apologize. I thought it was at 1:30. It's my fault. I told her 1:30. Let me see if I can reach her.
Okay. Does anybody know what a PAM device is instead of a scram device? Anybody ever heard of that? PAM? Me neither.
Personal alcohol monitoring, is that the little kind you put in your purse? It's like a blow and go, but
I guess. I just defendant be permitted to switch monitoring devices from scram to PAM. I just didn't ever know what that was. Makes sense.
I think that's what it is.
Sonia knows everything.
I don't.
She's our young kid with good technology skills.
Is
My
it sort of like a
teenager-
PDT? Sort of like the cop she's on the side of the road for DWIs? Is that what it is?
Sort of, but it has a camera and it takes your picture when you blow and it sends it to everybody that's on the subscription. Basically, you give email addresses to your attorney, your probation, or whoever, and it sends them the real-time results.
So does it say, like somebody calls you up and say blow and you blow?
You can do it like that, or you can set it up on, like, they usually do it 4 times a day. It's like 6 a.m., 1, whatever, 5, 10, something like that.
Interesting. Okay, Ms. Potts, we need to go on and begin.
Yes, Your Honor, I just emailed and texted her, and she just sent me an email, so I think she should be up in just a second. And it's some documents she wanted me to have for the hearing that she was trying to get scanned. So I'm going to send those to the parties, and I understand if we need to start.
Thank you, Judge. I will call Alma Becerra. How long have you had that job, Ms. Becerra?
I have been with the department for 3.5 years.
Okay. And are you the investigator on this case we're here for today?
Yes, I am.
All righty. And Alma, did the department receive a report on or about May 15th of 2024 regarding, let me get the children's names right, Isaiah and Isaac?
Yes, we did.
And without identifying the maker of that report, tell the court what the concerns were that were expressed in that report.
So when we received the case on the 15th, we were currently working on another case. So I went ahead and made sure that we sent out a Llano Sheriff's Department to go do a welfare check, just to make sure to check on the kids upon them arriving at the address that we originally had. The Fernandez and the children were not at that address, but the person there provided the address on Waco Street. So they went to the Waco Street address and did meet with the family. And then they contacted me, giving me the address, and then we corresponded over the phone. And then I told them what the concerns were, and then they made contact with both Krista and Austin. And then they were allowed into the home. They did check the children, and then they touched base with me.
Okay. And what were the concerns that you had based on that initial report?
The original concerns of the case were medical neglect, stating that one of the children was struggling with bug bites or something on their legs, concerns about not being seen by the doctor for quite some time, and neglectful supervision, basically being placed on that they were living in a condition or a home that was not suitable for the conditions for them to be living in, which would have been the original first address that they were not located at. And physical abuse, basically stating that the parent, Miss Fernandez, would be yelling and fighting with the kids, and also, I guess, with the dad.
Okay. And after hearing from law enforcement, did you go out to the home?
No, we did not go out after staffing the case with a supervisor that was on call and letting them know that they saw the children. The children were asleep. We decided that we would make the attempt the next day, which was Thursday. And then that's when I went out to the home to meet with the family.
Okay. And what was the address that you went out to the next day?
In Kingsland?
Okay. In Llano County, Texas.
Yes.
And so you went out there, and who was at the home? Who did you talk to?
When we arrived, because I took 2 other workers with me, because usually when there's more than a couple of kids, we take extra workers just to help with in the interviews. So when we arrived, we were greeted by Austin Ellison. I introduced myself, told him why I was here, and introduced him to the other co-workers with me, and told him that we were just there to check on the kids and conduct our investigation, and then if we could meet with Krista and the boys. And he agreed to let us into the home. He just asked for a few minutes to put the dogs, I guess, in a bedroom. And shortly after that, Krista came to the door and stated that the law had already been out there the night before, and that the case was already closed, and that she did not feel that we needed to enter her home.
Okay. And so so you talked to her there at the door then, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was your response to what she said?
I explained that the previous case that I had already viewed it, and I did see that case was ruled out. And I told her that even though the law had come out there to just to do like a welfare check, that I also needed to go ahead and conduct my investigation and discuss to her the reason for me being there and go over the allegations. And I said, before I do that, I've got to go over some information with you, which is a notice of rights. I said, and then I can tell you why exactly we're here. And then after I'm done with all the interviews and I address the allegations, then I can staff with my supervisor and then go from there. I said, so if the facts are that there is no medical neglect, no neglect for supervision or physical abuse in the household, then we can go back to the office and conduct our investigation, and then we would get a determination on what would be the next step for the case.
You explained all that to Krista, you said, and she's the mother, correct?
Yes, she is.
And so what was her response?
She stated that no, that we were invading her privacy and that she did not want us at her home, that she had already discussed this with the previous worker on the previous case, and that we're supposed to make scheduled appointments, and that she was not going to allow us into the home. And then she said, give me a moment, and she stepped into the house. And we could hear her and her husband, her and Austin, her paramour, discussing, I guess just talking. And then she finally came to the door and she said, well, I'd rather you come inside because it's embarrassing for everybody to see that y'all are at our house. So we went ahead and, requested if we asked for permission to enter their home, and we did. And she went to the back bedroom where I guess the dogs were at, because the dogs were barking because we were in the home. And Austin said, you're more than welcome to go ahead and start interviewing. Where do you need to start? And I stated that we would just need to see the children first. And I said, and I have 2 other workers with me, so we'll start interviewing the kids first. I said, and then after that, I can go over the rest of the information with both of you, and then discuss the notice of rights and all that information as well. And then when she entered the room, she said no, that we were not going to, that they had already been through enough, that we were not going to interview her and her children at her home, that we were not, we were not supposed to be there, and it was against, I guess she just kept on saying that it was against her privacy. We were invading her privacy and that we could not be there. So then she said, and it's embarrassing for y'all to be in our home. and trying to conduct this interview. So Austin said, well, why can't we go somewhere? And so I suggested that if they felt more comfortable interviewing like at a park, then that way we could kind of all separate, and then we would get done with the kids' interviews and then proceed with theirs. And she said, no, how humiliating would that be for the boys? So then Austin said, well, let's think about this. Like, where else can we go? And he mentioned Mr. Gaddy's, which is kind of like up the road from them on 1431. And he said that way the boys can still eat dinner. And in between speaking to everybody, he goes, at least the boys will be fed. And we can probably speak, private in a room to the side. And she entered the room and kind of like put her hands down on the counter, stating like she was like, if she was mad, kind of like pounding down on the counter, stating that no, that he could not make that decision, and that they were going to talk about it, and that no, she was not agreeing to do that. So we still didn't get anywhere. So she said, well, can't y'all just make an appointment for next week? And I said, no, we can't make an appointment for next week. I said, but if you feel more comfortable, I'm willing to just let me see the kids. Let me take photos of the children and conduct the home assessment. And why don't y'all come to the office the next day? And we scheduled it for Friday at 9 a.m. And then
How did that go? Did they show up?
no, they did not. So I got a phone call about 8:30 stating that the boys were sick. They were not feeling well. It was too overwhelming for them. And so she said, we really need to do this another time. And I said, well, I made the agreement to go ahead and interview you and the boys at the office and have other workers present so we could get it done quicker. I said, at this point in time, I'm going to have to staff it with my supervisor. I said, I will probably have to go ahead and have an affidavit taken before the judge for an aid to investigate, because I've already made arrangements with you and you're not able to, let us proceed with our case. So she said, it's not that I don't want y'all to proceed with speaking to the kids. She goes, it's just, this is so embarrassing for them, and they've already been through so much. And she said, and we've already been interviewed before, and y'all shouldn't have to do this again. And I explained that every time we have cases or allegations, we still have to go out, to address safety, make sure the children are safe, conditions of the home, and whatever the allegations is. And then I said, if the allegations are false, then we can rule the case out and close it. So then she said, well, then she goes, it's just going to be so embarrassing for them to walk into a CPS office and everybody's going to know. So I explained that we have separate offices. I said, we even have a rainbow room where the boys can go into the room. We have a TV, they can watch movies or play with their tablets while we get done with each interview. And she said, no, she just didn't want to do that. She didn't agree with that. She had mentioned that she had an attorney a couple of times, but she said she couldn't get a hold of the person. So then she said, well, let's just go ahead and meet at 2 at the house. So I agreed. And I did tell her that should I arrive at 2 o'clock and not be
Mr. Sarah, hold on a second. Someone
Yes.
named Scott Westland is in the waiting room.
Yeah,
Is that-
sure. Scott is the employer of Austin Ellison, and he's on his way to Denver, but he said he would be on standby. But you know what? That could be Austin, because he may be at
Okay.
Scott's trying to
I'll
get
let
in.
him in. Okay. Okay. Keep going. I'm sorry, Miss Becerra.
It's okay. So then we did arrive at the house at me and another coworker did arrive at the house at 2, a little bit after 2, because we were coming from another case. When we arrived, Krista met us at the door, greeted us at the door and invited us into the home. When I asked if we had permission to enter the home, she stated she did. We did. And she stated that she had cleaned up the house for us, so everything should be good in the home. So then I said, the first part that I would like to do is go ahead and interview the boys separate. And I said, and so she said, well, I want to be part of that interview. And I said, well, normally what we would do is interview the children separately and individually with nobody else around, so that way they feel comfortable and they can speak to us. I said, if they're in school, we also interview with them separately, not away from anyone. No one else is around, just for us to interview. I told her there was recorded audio, and she agreed, but she did not agree for us to take them into I guess, like separate areas, and of course she could not be going back and forth, and I guess just hearing the interview. At that point in time, I decided just to go ahead and proceed with it because I needed to talk to the boys to find out more, just find out what was going on, how long had they been there and stuff like that. So I went ahead and decided to go ahead and proceed with the interview. I did tell her not to interrupt the interviews or to add any information or stop us from the interview. So she agreed. Isaiah is the child that I interviewed. And Isaiah is the one that had multiple bites on his legs. They were kind of like scabbed over. He stated that it was from the mosquitoes, and that he had gotten bit pretty bad, and that they were still putting like some kind of an ointment on it, like Neosporin, to help it heal. Isaac was interviewed, and he basically said, you know, who lived in the household. He didn't say anything other than they were homeschooled. Stated that Austin wasn't his father, but he had raised them. And then I spoke with the other worker just so we could, you know, touch base between the two interviews. After we finished that interview, the boys went to their room, and I proceeded with my interview with Krista. After talking to Krista, I noticed that she mentioned that she used to be on medication, and had some stressors, you know, like things that would she needed medication for, but she couldn't afford it. The insurance or the plan that she was on didn't cover it.
Did she tell
So
you what
I explained to
medications?
her that
I'm sorry, Ms. What
it's okay.
medications did she say?
She did not tell me the name of the medication, but she said that it was kind of like because she had anxiety, but she stated that it was just so expensive. And so I said, well, we can help with that. I said, because I can get you set up through Bluebonnet Trails. I can get them to assess you and do all of that. I go in, then they can also help with the medication, and then it's not coming out of your pocket. I said, at the same time, we can get them to set up something for the boys, because she was concerned about Isaiah's speech, and possible autism or delays that they had. So I told her that would be the best bet to go ahead and get them all set up in there. And I provided her a couple of numbers, and I told her that once I completed my interview with her, then we would go on to the next person, which would have been Austin Jr. and Austin Sr. And so I had her write down Bluebonnet Trails, and I told her, I'm going to want you to reach out to them, schedule an appointment. I said, if I need to be the connection and call for you, I will. And then you just provide them all the information and then set it up. And I said, and if they know that CPS is involved, they'll get you in a lot sooner than you having to wait longer than 2 weeks. So then we got done with that interview. And then I noticed that she said that she doesn't have any time for herself, that she's always with the boys, always homeschooling, working. She was a mother, teacher, and a wife, and nonstop. And so then I asked her, well, how do you take care of yourself? Like, what do you do for yourself? And she said, I don't have any free time. And so I suggested that being a full-time parent and a teacher and working, I said, you also need your little time for yourself. I said, whether it's a walk to the park, go to the grocery store by yourself, walk around the neighborhood, you know, just something to do. I recommended anything to like give her little out time. I said, like, maybe go to your room, listen to music for a while Austin watches the kids for a while. But I told her, your mental health still matters, because if you don't take care of yourself, then how can you take care of your children? So she said she was going to think about some other ideas that she could do to take care of that. So after I finished that interview, the other Austin Jr. had already been interviewed. And so I told her that I was going to step out of the house and staff with my coworker and our supervisor and discuss the interviews amongst ourselves. So when I walked outside, I noticed that Austin Elliott had stepped outside and he had his back turned towards the house. So I asked him questions about, you know, was he okay? And, you know, it was a hesitation for him to even say anything was going on in the household. But he did state that there was issues within the home. He stated that the day that the law showed up, they got into an argument. Krista believed that he had called the law on her kids. He said he didn't. And then another child of the household also said that he had concerns that his father would get hurt because his mother has hit him before and thrown the phone at him. So when we point blank asked him if he was in a home with domestic violence, he said that it was, but it wasn't really, that he could handle it. So then when we explained to him that,
Ms. Becerra, let me ask you something right there. You were talking to Austin, the paramour, is that correct?
outside, yes, outside of the home.
And one of the boys had told you that Austin had been hit or had a phone thrown at him by Krista. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. All right.
So,
Go ahead.
So then I explained to him whether it's female or male, domestic violence is domestic violence. And we could help with that, but we needed to find out like more information, like what we could do. And so I told him that that's what we needed to do. And I told him I have to staff first. Let me staff first and see what we can do from here. And he was willing to work, get her help, or do whatever he needed to so that it could help the family in a whole. So after we staffed, I was given, we discussed the case, and there was a previous case where a phone was thrown at him while he was driving. So definitely the medical, we knew we could get the child seen. The physical, well, there was some physical going on in the home because of him being hit or the fighting. And the neglect, well, having children in the home, when that is occurring, there is still neglect in the household because you still have children in the house that are being placed into that situation, whether they're in the room or not. So I came back to the door. I asked if I could speak to them together. And first Krista came outside, and then I asked her if she could ask him to come back outside. So then I told her, after staffing with a supervisor, I said, we've got a couple of plans that we could come up with to try to get the family some help. She was very agitated, stating that no, absolutely not, that there was nothing wrong with their household and that they didn't need any help. So Mr. Ellison stated, give us the three, tell me what y'all could do to help us. So then I said, the first one would be, I definitely believe that, Krista, you need your mental health checked just for yourself. For the medication that you should be taking, that you're not taking it. Just because you're not taking it doesn't mean that your mental health is okay. So we need to get that checked. I said, so the first thing would be is to get you assessed and figure out what we need to do and get you on the proper medication so you can actually feel better. And she said, absolutely not, because there was nothing wrong with her. The case was not called in for that on her, that there was no domestic violence in the house. And then when I stated that there was an outcry, because, when we do an interview, if there's an outcry of abuse, we tell them there was an outcry of the abuse in the home. And she immediately said, I know that it wasn't my two boys, Isaiah and Isaac. I know that it was Austin Ellison because he's a liar. He's done this before. There's records. He's stolen stuff before. She said, so y'all are going to believe a child over that there's anything going on in the household. So then I said, well, the child is not the only person that made the outcry. I said, I also have an adult that also said that, yes, there is concerns in the household. And so, of course, she became very agitated and told him, how could you say anything like that? It's going to cause us them to take away the boys from us. And I told her no. I said, I asked her, do you want to go inside the house, so we could talk inside and not be on the porch? She didn't want us to go inside the house. So then he said, just listen for a second. Let's see what the other options are. And so I said, the second option would be that we put a safety plan in place. The safety plan brings somebody into the house that y'all select. We screen them to make sure that they're able to come into the home, that they're safe, and that they're going to be in the home 24/7 so that we have somebody else watching the boys. I go, in the meantime, you can still teach them, but that person will be there. Then you can also make your appointments to go to your appointments and do your mental health and get a physical or checkup or get your prescriptions or whatever you need. And she said, no, she wanted Austin to do it. And so I said, Austin can't because he works. I said, so I can't say that Austin is going to be the protective safety monitor for the home because he is aware of what was happening in the home. And the reason he stayed in the home and didn't say anything is because he felt that he had to be the protector for the boys. So I said, so who can we bring in? And she said, there's nobody. We don't have no family. No one's going to help us, you know. So then I said, what about people from the church, you know, neighbors, bosses, you know, a family member that could possibly come down here for a couple of weeks, you know, just anybody to come into the house. And she's like, that's just embarrassing because now you're making someone come into our home, invading our privacy because of these false allegations. So then she said, well, what would be the third option? I said, the third option would be we would ask either you to leave the home, to go somewhere so Austin can stay in the home with the boys. And at that same time, you get the time away for yourself to get your mental health taken care of and at least, you know, start that process. She said she didn't have nowhere else to go. I told her that I could make a couple of calls and I was pretty sure that I could get her in some place, even if it was just like a tiny home or a hotel for like a week or something, just to give her that time so she could take care of herself. And she said, no, that's not going to work because how will Austin work? So then I said, if that doesn't happen, the next thing would be, can Austin leave the home and you stay in the home? And then we'll figure out how to get Austin some help with the boys. But that way he will be, you know, out of the household. You can still take care of yourself, get your appointments, do everything that you need to do. And then we can continue to work on the case. She said, no, that was not going to happen either. So then I said, well, let me go staff with my supervisor. I said, because I think we've already reached everything that we could possibly offer and suggest, and then we'll go from there. So I went back into to staff outside with the supervisor and the program director. And when we staffed the case, they pretty much had decided like, no, there's too many danger indicators. And I also had the law there. And so, you know, I told them, she keeps on shutting the door on us and you can hear her yelling on the inside. I said, so I have serious concerns because the kids are all inside the house. And I said, and they're still hearing everything that's going on when we're outside or inside because we can hear her. So I told them I have very serious concerns about the boys because they're still hearing everything and we're still not anywhere to where we can say we can remove the kids or the kids are safe or we're bringing somebody in. So then I was told that they were going to, you know, for me to go talk to her again to see if I could get her to see why we were going to do this. And I kept on telling her, if there's nothing wrong, then you could come back. Everybody could go back. We could get you some services and then you can get past this. And she said she didn't trust anybody, didn't want any help. And that this was against the law. We shouldn't be doing that this is just inappropriate. We're breaking up the home. Then I got a call and I had already put in a call to the Llano Sheriff's Department asking for a mental health person to show up because I didn't feel that I was getting anywhere or helping her. And I was advised that it would be at least a couple of hours before they would show up. So in between that time and Krista speaking to the on-call supervisor and still not understanding, I was told that the emergency removal was approved. So Mr. Ellison was outside with me when I told him that I had the approval, and I told him that I would be removing the twins and that our recommendation would be that he leave with Austin and go to his mother's house in Georgetown or wherever, somewhere else other than the house. And then that way we could work on trying to get Krista help. He asked to try to talk to her again. She became very, very agitated. And so at that point, I tried to talk to her and I had a supervisor on the phone and I told her that they were going to try to explain to her and they kept on saying, it's the same thing that Alma has told you. And she was upset because of course we are on her front porch, neighbors are outside. And so, you know, we tried to talk to her inside and sometimes we were welcome inside, sometimes we were not. So she started talking to the supervisor that was on call and said she was going to talk about it outside because everybody was looking at her. And so she started to take my phone inside the house. And the law said, you can't go in there with her phone. And so she's like, well, then come inside. And he's like, she has to come inside. It's her phone. So then I walked inside. They talked to her again. I stood there and she just became very agitated, started yelling more, you know, told the boys to stay in their room, started saying that it was Austin's fault. And as I saw that she started getting madder and madder, I was giving back the phone. supervisor said, you've got to just go ahead and give her the paper and do an emergency removal. So I started trying to talk to her. The law tried to step in and just say, look, if you just do the steps that they're trying to help you do, then we can get this resolved. And then she got really agitated. She basically said that just because they pushed each other and hit each other doesn't mean that that's domestic violence. And I said, that is domestic violence because you have children in the household that are still exposed to that, whether they're in the room or not. So she said, okay, but everybody does that. And I said, no, when it's escalated and you're yelling and you're blaming each other because you're thinking that he's called on you, that is the domestic violence that the boys are seeing. That's what they're seeing when you try to take off with them because you're mad at him. Those are things showing that there's concerns in the household. I said, so I do have the orders and I can remove the children. It is an emergency removal. She said, no judge's signature, no removal. So I stepped outside to staff again to try to come up with anything else, contacted the Atlanta Sheriff's Department saying, I need a mental health person here like now. Kept on going back and forth. She would come outside. I would explain to her again. By then, Austin Jr. had come outside. Dad had brought him outside and didn't want him in the house no more. So he asked us to keep him close to like our vehicles. He went inside and he was going to try to figure out a way to get the boys either out of the house or get some clothes for the kids because he knew that that's where we were at. When I was outside with the little boy, he said it was too hot. So he stood next to our car. I had the door open for the AC so he could kind of not be in the direct heat. She started coming out towards me. I told her that I needed to talk to her so that she would not like go up to the car where he was at. And she said, that's kidnapping. And I said, no, Austin brought him to me, put him here. He's fine. Krista, let's talk. And she turned around and ran back inside the house. She shut the door. The law knocked on the door, said, you've got to come out. We can't shut the door. And I got back on the phone with the supervisor and she said, you already done this for an hour and a half more. And you're not going to ever reason with her. She's not going to understand this. They said, you need to just walk in, ask entry to walk into the home, go inside, hand her the paper and go get the boys. So I stood at the doorway, asked her if I could come in. She would not answer. Law was standing next to her and next to me on the right. And so I hollered for Austin and I said, Austin, this is Alma Becerra. Can I enter your home? And he said, yes. And I asked him where he was at. He told me he was in the boys' bedroom. I handed her the paper and I told her that all the information that she needed was on the form and that I was removing the boys. And as I walked towards the boys' bedroom, she came after me saying that was kidnapping. I shut the door so that I could talk to the boys and explain to them that we were just trying to help their mom and that I promised that they would be safe. And Isaiah is the one that I spoke to. And he told me that if he could talk to Isaac, Isaac would listen to him. So he told Isaac, they're going to try to help us. Mr. Ellison was there as well. He was trying to explain to them how he was trying to get them out so they would be safe and that he was okay. He wasn't hurt. And that was very concerning for me to hear him say that he wasn't hurt because then that means they either saw more or he was really worried that they were worried about him as well. So Isaac said, can I bring my computer or tablet? And I said, yes. So we walked out. As we walked out to the hallway, I put my arm around him and walked out kind of like sideways. As I went to pass in front, Krista, she was like, I'm sorry, I'll do anything you want me to do. I'll leave the house, begging. But by that point, I had already gotten the emergency order removal done. And there was no point in going back in and trying to start from scratch again because we had gotten nowhere for 3.5 hours. And so I walked to the vehicle, put the one child in the vehicle, and then Austin put the other child in my vehicle. I explained to Krista that I couldn't discuss anymore. She had my contact information and that I would be calling her to ask of any family or individuals that I could possibly place the boys with and for her to wait for my call. And then we left.
Okay, so let's break some of that down, Ms. Becerra. That was a lot. I think we all know the answer to this, but explain why you were concerned about the children being present in the home during domestic violence.
Because anytime there's domestic violence in the household and children are present, it doesn't mean that they're included in the direct domestic violence. But if a child walks in the middle of any fight or any disagreement and actually gets pushed or moved away, like they could get hurt. And we've had lots of cases to where that has happened. Sometimes the children come in to try to stop the fight, and they also get in the middle of it, and they should not be placed in the middle of a situation like that. So regardless of them being in the home, in the bedroom, does not mean that they are not hearing or they're not exposed to what's actually happening. And that's still affecting them. They're still being affected whether they're in the direct domestic violence themselves or if they're just listening to it. Because the boys, the 12-year-old boys that I found in that room covered with their comforters, on the bed, all the way covered up, were 12-year-old boys that appeared to be very afraid.
All right, thank you. Now, did you observe anything about the mother's behavior that made you concerned for her mental health?
When she would go through her, like when she seemed that she understood, she was a different person. But when she was getting mad, or I would call them episodes or rages, you could see that she was very agitated, pacing, and it was like I didn't know what she was going to do. She even walked right up to me. She came like really close to my face. I was also in the interview, we were also told that she had bit Austin Sr. So when she came right up to me, I was just imagining like what's going to happen, what is she going to do? Because she was very agitated when she came up to me. And the law stood next to me, I guess, anticipating what was she going to do? So that was when I would try to make eye contact with her and tell her, look, I need you just to calm down so we can talk about this and we can come up with a plan of what we could do. And so no matter what I said, I could see her go through like the rages, and the rages seemed to be getting a little bit worse. When she kind of like came out after me as I was walking to the hallway, I think I even looked at the officer and said, I hope you have my back, because I did not know what was happening, because you could just see she was so agitated. And
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this narrative continuing. I'd like for her just to answer the questions, please. I think it'd go faster too.
Sustain.
All right, so Ms. Becerra, I think we get the idea there. Did the mother say any specific things anything she said specifically you can tell us that made you concerned about her mental health?
She just said that she had never been away from her boys, and please not to take her boys because she couldn't live without her boys.
Okay. And you took that as possibly meaning a self-harming situation on her part. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because she was already stating she couldn't be without them, had never been without them, and could not live without them. And
Okay.
I still felt like her mental health was still, she was still suffering from her mental health really bad by that time.
Now, you told us that she talked about her privacy several times. Did she say anything about being watched or listened to by anyone?
She did state that she didn't feel comfortable because she always felt like somebody was always listening. During my interview with her face-to-face, during that interview, she would stop and I would notice that she would kind of like look around the room, but it was just me and her, or Austin was sitting at the table with the other worker. And, she just seemed kind of, and then she would lower her voice as almost like if you're trying to whisper. But I did never ask her, like, are you hearing voices or what happened? One of the children did say, that she's walked off and left the water running in the restroom and not even aware that she did that. So some of those things
Your
were
Honor,
kind of like concerning.
I'm going to object to this continuing narrative. If we could just be more specific and move on.
All right, Ms. Becerra. Oh, sorry, Judge.
Okay.
I was going to move on if with the court's permission.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. So, Ms. Becerra, did the mother say anything about anyone listening in the walls or through the walls or surveilling her or watching her from the street or anything like that?
Objection leading.
Sustain.
All right. So, Ms. Becerra, let's see. You mentioned that the mother would shut the door and you could hear her yelling inside the house. Could you understand what she was saying?
Yes.
What was she saying?
She was yelling at Austin Sr., telling him that it was Austin Jr.'s fault for lying and making all of what it was occurring. It was all his fault.
And where was Austin Jr. when she was shouting about that?
He was still in the house.
In the same
He
house?
was yes, he was in the house where they were at. He was either in his bedroom or in the hallway by his brother's room, which is from where I saw him
All right.
when they would open the door.
Now, how much time did you spend talking to the family before you got approval to do a removal?
Almost 2.5 hours trying to come up with a resolution and explain everything so we would not have to proceed with the removal if we could come up with one of the other conditions that would help while we investigated.
Okay. And then once you got authorization for removal, how much time did you spend working with the family before you actually removed?
About 2.5 hours. Because when I tried to hand her the paper, the removal paperwork, she wouldn't take it. Austin wanted to hand it to her, and we normally hand it to them.
Objection, Your Honor. He asked how much time, and she's answered how much time. Object to the continued narrative.
Stay.
All right. So that's a total of around about 5 hours you worked trying to work with the family and explain and work with the mother. Is that fair to say, Ms. Becerra?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, after that date, that was Friday, the 17th of May?
Yes. Yes.
All right. After that date, did you have any more concerning interactions with the mother since between then and now?
Yes.
I'm
And
sorry, it's not an objection. I just want to let y'all know that Mom is going to be on in 2 or 3 minutes, so we need to wrap up.
well, all due respect, I've got a case to put on here, Judge. We're forced into an adversary hearing by this mother.
That's okay if you want to keep going, but I'm not going to have any more narrative. I'm going to have to object.
So, okay, Ms. Becerra, let's get real specific here, and we need to do questions and answers.
Okay.
Tell me about, pick the first concerning interaction and tell me what happened and tell me why that concerned you.
The first interaction was the Saturday after the removal.
Okay, what happened that day?
That day, the family, Chris's family, notified me, telling me that she was not responding and they were really concerned about her. So I tried to reach out to her. I called her and I texted her. Did not get a hold of her. So then I went ahead and sent a will check. It took a couple of times, I guess, for them to try to get her to come to the door. They did speak with her, and then they notified me that she was okay. She was very upset, but she was okay. That was the first interaction, first thing.
And when was the next one?
The next one was in the evening between, I would say, 7:45 and maybe 8:45.
Of that same day, of Saturday?
That same Saturday in the evening.
Okay.
I had notified Mr. Elliott that I was on my way to go drop off gift cards for the kids to get some additional clothing from Walmart and groceries. And I was just confirming which property was the mechanic shop and the apartment that they were at, because I did not go and do the assessment. And so he was giving me directions on how to get there. He stated, "Do you need me to stay on the phone or you think you can find it?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I can find it. If not, I will call you." As I drove in, he told me pretty much if you look to
I'm going to object. We've got hearsay and all kinds of narrative going on here.
Just
All
stay.
All right. So, Ms. Becerra, let's skip that. What, if anything, did the mother provide for the boys as they left to go live somewhere else? Any of their stuff?
nothing. No.
Okay. Did the mother, after they left, did the mother provide anything for their care? Stuff or money or gift cards or anything like that?
No.
Did the mother have an opportunity to visit with the children after the removal?
Yes, she was told that the HST would call her on Monday and schedule a interview here at the office.
Okay, did she do that? Did the mother take advantage of that?
She did. She called us when it was time for the interview to to go on, stating that she was having car trouble, and stated that she was on her way. We went ahead and waited till she got here and gave her the remainder of the time that she was supposed to visit.
Okay. Was there anything concerning about that visit?
She started asking them questions like, where were they living? She asked, they told her they had gone shopping, and she was asking like how.
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt. My client is trying to get on Zoom and it said there were no further spaces available.
No, sorry, that's not true.
What is it? What does it say? Okay. I'll work on it, Judge. Thank you.
And so,
We
Ms.
can have
Becerra,
it 50
sorry,
space,
Judge.
or more. No, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Becerra, had the mother been instructed not to talk to the boys about where they were living and what they'd been doing?
Yes. Prior to the interview, there's a form that they go over with them, letting them know what they can and cannot say. We can stop the interview, not to ask questions if that's their time, like for the bonding time for them to, speak with them. So the interview was interrupted twice, letting her know that she could not be asking those questions.
All right. Now, was the mother given an opportunity to have a Zoom visit with the boys?
She was. I made several attempts to set up a Zoom. I sent her text messages. I did leave attempted to leave voicemails. At one time, our voicemail was full. I did get a text from her stating that the Zoom was not beneficial, that she needed to just be put back in the place with her boys. She needed that contact, and that this was affecting them more than it was anybody else because we were not allowing them all to come home together as a family.
So did she ever have that Zoom visit? Did she ever join it?
No, she did not. She did question why she was.
Objection, Your Honor. This is a yes or no question.
Sustain.
All right. So, Ms. Becerra, this will probably be a yes or no question too. Did you try to talk the mother into getting some mental health care and evaluations between the removal and now? Have you done that?
Yes.
Has she ever agreed to take advantage of that or go to any of that, at least as far as you know?
No.
All right. I'll pass this witness, Judge.
Ms. Potts.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. I have a couple of questions. In the beginning, Ms. Becerra, you outlined, I think, 3 reasons for going to the place to do the removal. And
yes.
one of them was the condition of the home, but they in fact did not live in that home any longer. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did you have any problems with the condition of the home where she did live, which is the home at 8?
No, we did not.
Okay, so we can mark that one off our list. You also had a concern about medical neglect because there were bug bites. Is that correct?
Correct.
Have you taken the kids to the doctor since then?
No, she had scheduled an appointment.
Well, yes, agreed. Mom had set up an appointment that was previously set up. I understand the department canceled that appointment. Is that correct? Or
We did because she was going to show up.
Okay, so the appointment.
She did not.
Where? She was going where?
She was going to show up at the appointment, and I told her when she did the face-to-face visit here that she could not be at the appointment because according to the hearing, she was still not to be, around the children. And it became to where she was still insisting that she was going to show up. So the department felt that it was better to cancel that appointment, and that way she would not show up, and then we would get it set up again. Austin was struggling to get the next appointment scheduled, And we were going to try to go through Bader, Scott, and White through a different avenue just so that we could get all the appointments taken care of.
Okay, so the department canceled the appointment, yes or no? Is that correct?
No, we did not.
You just didn't go
Austin
to
did.
the, okay, so he did so at the department's request, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so the children have not yet seen a doctor, correct?
no, they have not.
Okay, so there couldn't be too much medical concern if the children haven't even seen the doctor and it's been several weeks, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take that one off the list too. So that leaves us with arguing and fighting with the kids within earshot, correct? That's one of your first three reasons for removal. And Austin Ellis, if I recall your testimony correctly in the affidavit, said there was some family violence, but he could handle it because that was when she threw a phone at him. Is that correct?
Correct.
However, that phone was thrown in the last case, not the current case. And in fact, that case has been dismissed or whatever. It's not currently ongoing. Is that correct?
No. According to Austin Elliott's Jr.'s interview, that a phone had recently been thrown at him that week of the removal.
Okay, thank you. So the basis of this emergency removal then is that a phone was thrown by Ms. Fernandez at Austin Ellis. Is that correct?
That was not the main focus of the removal. No.
Well, you just gave me three reasons why there was the removal, and we just went over the first two, which are no longer there. So now we have arguing and fighting with the kids, in which case,
So
the one example I received was she threw a phone at Austin Ellis. And that was the example you gave earlier, correct?
correct. So when
I have no further questions, Your Honor. That was just the items that I needed to cover. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wood?
Mental health became a concern for you in the interviewing process. Is that correct? Of the mother?
That's correct.
Okay. At what point did you find about Joseph Fernandez, the father? When did you get his information?
I was given the information once we had already taken the boys into custody and we were here at the office after searching back history. It was not provided to me during the interview. And
he had contact with the boys by phone, is that right?
He had contact through his daughter before, through his daughter Lexi.
But through y'all, there was a call that was made and Dad was able to visit with the two boys in your presence.
Yes, that's correct. The Zoom visit. Yes, that's correct.
And that call, I believe in the last hearing you said went well. He visited with them, introduced himself as the father. They recognized that.
He actually introduced himself as Joseph Fernandez, and then he goes, but I'm your dad, but y'all can call me Joseph, because he said he just didn't want to just say, hey, I'm your father.
Have you received documents, pictures, photos of the home where he lives?
Yes, I have.
Have you done a background check on Mr. Fernandez?
Our background check, we have done our part. We also had the CVS supervisor also assisted with locating and doing out-of-state background. And according to everything that we received, there is no concerns or nothing on the background.
Okay. So you have no concerns about placing the children with Joseph Fernandez, the biological father, based on your investigation?
No, I do not.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Miss Wright, any questions?
Miss Becerra, did the boys indicate whether they had a relationship with Mr. Fernandez?
When I spoke to them during the interview, they said that they knew him, but they really didn't talk to him. That they pretty much had just been with Austin.
Okay. And they've never spent the night with him that they can remember. Is that correct?
Yes, they didn't say that they had ever spent the night with him. They didn't even know where he lived.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Wilson, any more questions?
Maybe just one or two, Judge. Ms. Becerra, at this point in this case, you've been on this now for a couple of weeks. What are your biggest safety concerns for the boys being around the mother?
The safety concerns are her mental health has still not been addressed. Even when we met with her on Friday, she's not agreeing or willing to use any of the recommendations that the department or the judge orders. She's wanting to use her own resources or whoever she wants to go see. And I advised her that as long as we were able to check them out and they are actually trained professional psychiatrists or evaluators that we could actually use, we could, but she was wanting to even speak with like a therapist. The therapist is not going to be able to do this evaluation on psychiatry or anything else like that. So she's still not understanding that there's still some things that she does need to work on, and we still need her to do those appointments. And that was from like, what, 2.5 weeks ago that we've been trying every day or trying to get her to a doctor, and
Right.
she's still
So-
not there.
Okay, and so mental health, anything else?
The concerns of her not really understanding that the medical, like as far as for her son, if she had concerns over her son's speech or his because she took him out of school because she felt that they were being bullied because of his appearance and his stutter, all of those things had not been addressed, and that's why I was trying to get her into Bluebonnet Trials so that they could assess them and figure out what the boys really need, so the boys would benefit from what's going to help them.
Okay.
When I met with her face to face on Friday with the CASA worker, she stated that she just had this, she didn't want to go to Bluebonnet Trial. She just didn't want to.
In
She
your honor,
did-
I object to this continued narrative. She needs to answer Mr. Wilson's questions and not just
Okay.
continue talking.
Okay.
I think she has answered. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Ms. Becerra?
No,
Ms.
Your-
Becerra? Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Becerra, any other safety concerns other than mom's mental health not being addressed?
The concerns for me would be that the boys still tend to feel like they're to blame. And I just feel that that's just part of what happens when children are in a household, that there is domestic violence, because they automatically think that it's their fault. So whether it was the original case or not, I still saw present, that they're still exposed to the physical abuse in the household and the concerns of the neglect because there was fighting in the household, whether it was not the original allegations. And then, of course, the mental part, the medical part, children at that age, if they're not thriving, they need
Again,
it.
Your Honor, this is a really long discussion and narrative. If we could please answer the questions. I'm not sure Ms. Becerra understands what I'm asking.
This was a general question.
She was answering my question, so that's going to be overruled. Last one's the mental health that I already got. Ms. Becerra, is there a concern about the boys being 12 years old and homeschooling if they really were receiving any education?
There was concerns over that. She did state that she had these programs that she had them on, but she basically, when I mentioned she could give the laptops or computers, the laptops to the boys, and Austin could assist with that, she was still like, no, that he can't do it. I'm the only one. I'm the teacher. And I recommended, even if they just got on the reading program on their laptops, but, she still wanted to be the main person and around them and in the house. And that would have worked where she could have been involved if she had a safety monitor in the house, and she did not agree to that.
Did you see any of the boys' schoolwork or any lessons or any stuff that they'd even done?
I did not see any lessons. I did see some papers hanging on the wall, like some letters and stuff like that, but that was all that I saw in the home. I did not see, she did not take out any school program or show me anything. She did state that she had purchased a new program and that they would be going to school all summer long as well, because they were so far behind.
Do you know if the boys can read or write or do math?
I believe that they can read because they do play really well in their games. And I observed one of them, Isaiah, today, interacting with this game. during the interview here with a face-to-face visit for her with the boys, she did tell them, let's get a book and start reading. Have you been reading? And they're like, no, we don't want to. So I think that was just that they just didn't want to read then because they were visiting with her, but I didn't actually hear them read.
Okay. I did not, or have y'all asked mom to submit any drug tests?
I did order a drug test and a hair follicle. I did give her the directions when she came to do the visit. And I told her that she needed to go get that done and out of the way, because in that way we would at least have that already entered in the case. I did advise her not to color or dye her hair. As of last week, she still had not ever showed up to do the drug test.
Okay. How's her hair? Does she have hair still?
She still has hair. I did notice when we saw her Friday, her hair looks like it's either been colored or bleached recently.
Okay. Are the boys still with Austin?
Yes, they are. And I did do a visit at the cabin where they have been staying. That's the place that Scott and his fiance had paid for. His mother is there, and the 2 boys were there as well. And
Okay.
she's been staying there in the tiny cabin.
How far are they apart from each other?
I would have to say about maybe a little bit over maybe 8 or 10 miles apart.
Okay, they're not close. Okay.
Yeah.
Does the mother drive?
Yes, she does, but I believe that her vehicle has broken down, and so she's relying on I guess anybody that can give her a ride, getting her to and from whatever appointment that she needs to go to.
Do you know if she gets any Social Security disability type funds?
She did not state that she did through the interview.
Right, so you don't know if the boys get any money through that way either, right?
She didn't state that they did. I did kind of mention that if they had a diagnosis, that she should look into that, but she didn't state that they did or did not.
And she's the mother of Austin Jr., is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but she's still married to Mr. Fernandez, correct?
Yes, according to her interview, yes, she said that she was still married. He had not signed the papers.
Okay. Since Austin Senior works, who's staying home with the boys during the day, or do they need somebody to stay home with them, or what are they doing now that, I mean, they didn't go to school anyway, but what do they do during the day?
Right now, Nyla, who is Mr. Ellison's mother, she is the one that is at home or in the cabin with the boys. During the removal, she did not have her own place. So she was like, I wish I could bring them to my place, but I don't have my own place. And for the first couple of weeks, I think she had appointments. So she was trying to get rid of all of her appointments till she could come and help Austin. So she's pretty much staying with him and staying in the little sofa areas where she's sleeping, so that she's there while he goes to work.
How old is Austin Jr.? I don't remember.
Austin Jr. is 9.
Okay, so pretty close to the boy's age.
Correct.
Does Austin Jr. go to school?
No. According to Mr. Ellison, Austin Jr. was also homeschooled, but they were all like at different levels.
But they were all homeschooled by the mother, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? And Ms. Becerra?
No, Your
No
Honor.
questions, Judge.
Ms. McCary, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next witness, Mr. Wilson.
No more witnesses, Judge. I rest.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Potts.
No witnesses, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wood, any witnesses?
I'd call my client just for a few questions, Judge.
Okay, go on, please.
Gotcha.
She got, okay.
Mr. Fernandez, when was the last time you had your children stay with you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. See, I left Colorado early December. So Christmas Eve, December 12th was the last time I had them. Christopher Fernandez came with Lexi and our other biological daughter, Nicole, and basically came to talk to me because at that point I left Colorado because I found out she was seeing Austin Ellison behind my back. So I just wanted to move back where I had family. So I moved back here to New Mexico. I stayed with my brother for a while, but she kept telling me that she wanted to work it out. And the easiest thing for me right now is for her to take the boys. And our other biological son, Elijah, was here. And at the time, he was about 5. And she said, it would be a lot easier for you with just you and Elijah. And I'll take the boys, and the girls want to finish school. So we'll be back in May. So she kept that going for a while. But yeah, December Christmas Eve, 2012 was the last time I see them. Sorry.
And Elijah still lives with you. I think he's doing Job Corps, so he's out during the week, but with you on the weekends.
Correct.
Do you have any trouble providing for the 2 twins if they were to move in with you right now?
I do not have any trouble. I can provide for them. Yes.
Okay. And I believe Lexi is very involved in their lives, has a strong connection with them too. Is that correct?
Yes, Lexi has been, gosh, even though she's their sister, is basically like a second mother. You know, back early on, you know, when Chris and Austin would go out, Lexi would be the main babysitter. So they're very close to Lexi. And, you know, yes, they're very close.
When was Lexi's last contact with the twins as far as keeping them or seeing them?
I believe last summer the boys were there for a few months. Gosh, sometime last summer, and then Krista came and went and got them back. And I know Lexi was a little upset about it because the boys were finally stable. You know, they had a room, and yeah, she was just upset about that. But yeah, that was last summer sometime, I believe.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, Judge.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Fernandez?
I do, Judge.
Okay.
Mr. Fernandez, my name is Rob Wilson. I represent the Department of Family and Children Services here in Texas. Just a few questions, please, sir, as we're all getting to know you. You live in New Mexico or Colorado?
I live in Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
Okay. And we've done a background check, or at least a criminal check in Texas, Mr. Fernandez, but what, if any, criminal history do you have in New Mexico or anywhere else?
None.
None? Okay.
None.
Have you ever had a CPS or equivalent investigation in any other state?
No, never.
Do you use any illegal drugs, Mr. Fernandez?
I do not.
Have you ever been to any kind of rehab or anything like that for any kind of substance abuse, Mr. Fernandez?
No, I have not.
All right. And your home is big enough to take in the 2 boys?
Yes, it's we got a spare bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, over about almost 1,600 square feet, good sized backyard, you know, stuff like that, but they will have their own room.
Okay. Are there doctors in the area, schools in the area that they would see or go to?
Oh, yes. We have great schools here in Rio Rancho. The school district that we're in, they'd be going to Rio Rancho Middle School. And they have great IEP programs there as well. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Pass the witness, Judge.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Fernandez?
I have a couple, Judge.
Okay. I have a bunch, Ms. Wright, so maybe we'll
Okay.
cancel each other out. Okay.
Mr. Fernandez, so 2012 is the last time you actually had a time with the children in a home. Is that correct?
Correct.
And they would have been how old at that time?
They had just turned 1 year old.
1 year old. Okay. And so sounds like she left and then was supposed to come back and didn't really ever come back. But the children have had a relationship with your daughter. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you have a relationship with your daughter. Is that correct?
I do.
Okay. And where does Alexia live?
She lives in Colorado Springs.
And I observed a visit with y'all the other day, and it sounds like you and Alexia have a good relationship. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You know,
so
I raised Lexi's not my biological daughter, but I've had raised her since she was 6 months old. So,
yes, but I
yeah.
understand. Now, when Alexia had the boys last summer, did you ever make contact with her to try to visit with them?
No, at that time, you know, with her moving and stuff, I just didn't have contact. I don't know if it's just out of respect for Krista, but you know, I know Krista has been trying to basically avoid them having contact with me. Hence the fact that since I moved down here back in 2012, early 2013, basically they moved many places, so it was very hard to, you know, get in touch. You know, no one where they were going, where they were living at the time. So, you know, I was in the dark pretty much the last 12 years.
Okay.
11 years, 12 years.
And did you ever try to go to court and get visitation with the kids or anything like that?
No, at the time I did consult an attorney here in New Mexico, but he said something about a tri-state custody battle would take a lot of time and money. And at the time I did not have said money. So yeah, I was hoping that Krista would come to her senses at one point, and you know, we could share, you know, co-parent the kids, so to speak. But it didn't work like that. Let's see, 2021 is when I bought my house with my partner, with my girlfriend Teresa, that I've been dating since 2016. So that was the first time I had contact with Krista in a while, because I needed her to sign a sole and separate form. That way she has no rights to my property that I was going to buy. So we started talking. We started talking.
Let me
I'm
interrupt
sorry.
you. So, because you and Krista are still married, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so you were able to reach out to her in 2016. Did you ask about the boys?
2021.
2020.
Yeah.
So and that's when you bought your house? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. In 21, did you ask her to let you talk to the boys on the phone or have a visit with them?
No, you know, I've always been probably within the last few years, just been a kind, like I don't want to confuse them any more than what they might be, you know, because and I don't even know what she's told the boys about me. Apparently they knew about me being their biological father, but at that time, no, she didn't. I kind of just asked how they're doing, you know, how are they doing, and she said everything's fine, they're doing great, and you know, that's all I needed to know for my, you know, peace of mind, was that they're okay. So
how many times do you think over the last 12 years have you reached out to try and have a visit with the kids or talk to the kids?
Gosh, early on, the first few years, it was quite a few times, you know, but it's just, you know, I was been given the runaround, kind of lied to, and so it just never worked out on my end. Okay.
And then my last little bit of questioning for you, did you, when you and Miss Krista were in a relationship together, or y'all are married actually, did you ever have any concerns about her mental health?
A couple times.
Okay, and can you talk to me about those?
Okay. This was maybe a year or two before we moved to Colorado, because we had lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and she had made an excuse that my mother had called her to pick up my sister from the mall or check on her, and she had just gotten off of work, so I was in the middle making dinner and stuff, and she said basically, well, I'm gonna go pick her up, and she called me and she says, hey, well, her friend's here with her, she wants me to take her home. She lives in Batana Ranch, a community in Albuquerque. And I said, okay, fine. So small story short, she never came home that night. I had called her and called her and called her. Actually, Lexi was at her grandmother's at the time. So I had Nicole, our biological daughter, and Elijah, our biological son. Nicole was probably about 3, 4 years old. Elijah was a baby, he was still in a car carrier. So I kept going out, trying to cruise the streets, see if I see her. I called the police department, hospital. I gave it one last try, about 5 in the morning, 4:30. And then here she comes walking up our street on the house that we owned. That was our first house we bought, barefooted with her high heels in her hands. And she didn't have an explanation of why she was absent the whole night, the whole evening, whole night. And the car she was driving said ran out of gas, like some 7 miles away. So I'm like thinking, did you walk that far? Or what's really going on? So yeah, that was probably one of the first times. She did that one other time, not as bad, but yeah, I did.
Okay. And then was there ever any domestic violence between you and Krista, either you against her or her against you?
No, well, no. I mean, we'd have some arguments, like, you know, every couple does, you know, but there was never anything like physical or nothing like that. You know,
Okay.
When we had an argument, I always like to make sure that the kids weren't around, because you know it's kind of like adults talking, you know, so kids shouldn't be around that. But not really.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Anybody else? Okay, sorry, I'm messing with my phone. My stuff's not charging, so that's why I had to go back and forth. Okay. Mr. Fernandez, when did Elijah last see Ms. Fernandez?
I want to say 2015. They were living in a campground in Nederland, Colorado. Krista, Austin, and the boys were living in a campground. And that's when he saw her. I allowed Lexi took him, so that way he can see his brothers and stuff. So Lexi took him. She had my blessing, of course. Yeah, that was the last time. My other daughter, my biological daughter, Nicole, hasn't seen her since, gosh, I want to say because she left Colorado because in May of 2013 and told Krista she wanted to come just to visit for a while. And then she never wanted to go back. She said there were just some instances that she was part of that it bothered her. And, she wanted to stay with me. So
Lexi belongs to Krista, is that correct?
Yes, that's her biological mother.
Okay. And then you and Krista have 4 children together? That's correct. Does Miss Fernandez have any other children other than the 5 that we've talked about?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Where you live in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Tell me where that is in New Mexico.
We're a suburb of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay, got it. So you're not close to Colorado Springs.
What? Maybe about 5 hours.
Yeah, not close. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you maybe answered this, but do the girls, Lexi and your other daughter, do they see Krista?
Lexi saw her last time. I guess Lexi saw her was last year, maybe when she had the boys. Nicole hasn't seen her since 2013, I believe.
Okay. So would you say since 2013, 2012 that you testified to earlier that everybody's just lived separately?
No. Okay. So I already had Elijah with me, and Nicole came down in May 2013. When she got here, she kind of told me, she just said it was just bad that Austin and Krista, and this is what Nikki told myself, that they were drinking all the time and they were smoking pot in the garage. They would invite. At the time, Krista was managing an apartment complex, and Austin was their maintenance guy. But they would invite the other maintenance guys, and they would have these little get-togethers in the house. And at the time, and that was the same house I lived in with Krista before I left. And so we had a finished basement, and they would basically send the boys down who were babies at the time, for the girls to watch them down there while they hung up upstairs. And she said she didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And that's why she came and stayed with me in 2013. And I raised both Nikki and Elijah.
How old are Nikki and Elijah now?
Elijah just turned 18 in January, and Nicole is about to turn 23 here in August.
Okay, and do they both live, where do they live?
Elijah lives part-time with me. He goes to Job Corps during the week. He has some issues in high school, and we figured that, he just wanted to get in, learn a trade. So he's doing academics and doing welding at the same time, but he does come home on the weekends. He has his own room. So he comes home on weekends or extended days off from Job Corps, like holidays, whatnot like that.
Okay, Nikki.
Nikki, she has a boyfriend, and they have their own place where they're staying at in Albuquerque. I just had lunch with both of them yesterday when I took Elijah back to campus.
Okay. Is Job Corps in y'all's area?
No, it's in Albuquerque. It's a little drive, but it's just twice a week that go and come. So
okay. You mentioned Krista's mental health, that incident.
Right.
No more incidents other than that during the time y'all were together?
That one, and there's another incident after that one. Like I said, it wasn't as bad as it was before, but she had called me and said she's gonna be late home, and I'm like, fine, but she was a little late, but nothing like that. But it's just like, yeah. So
okay. Mr. Fernandez, your application for court-appointed attorney says you work at Interim Healthcare. Can you explain that for me, please?
Yeah, Interim Healthcare is basically
Wait, hold on just 1 second. Ms. Potts, it says Krista, I just let Krista in. If that's your client, she needs to show her face.
Yes, Your Honor, I will text her.
Okay. Or she's going to be excused. I'm sorry, Mr. Fernandez, go on.
okay. Yeah, we're a second party company to the Veterans Affairs. So basically, we work with disabled veterans, with either the different health assessments, with bathing, stuff like that, but, we get different clients around the area. A lot of my clients that I get are in Rio Rancho, so I'm always nearby. And I've been with them since 2018. And, I really like it,
So are you, you're out in the field, you're not working at the house, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now you mentioned a we, and I figured that was a girlfriend that you've had since 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what's her name again?
Teresa Padilla.
Padilla?
Yes.
Okay. Does Teresa, tell us about Teresa.
Okay. Well, she works in long-term care living. We actually used to work together, but then we started a relationship, and I just felt that it was a conflict of interest for me to work in the same place where she worked at. So I kind of left, and I got in with Interim. She's a little older than me. She has 2 adult kids and then 2 small grandchildren that are 13, and Soraya is gonna be 5 next year in January. And she just, she's an old-fashioned gal that, she really cares a lot. Good person, doesn't have any criminal history, and basically she loves her grandkids. So yeah, we have her grandkids over here from time to time, and it's just great. We love them. We love to have them over here. So, but
what does she think about if you were to have the boys living with y'all?
Oh, she 100% support. She just, as far, as what I've told her, and I don't like to, because I don't really know anything that's going on, but what I've told her since I got contacted about this situation 2.5 weeks ago or something, she's been very supportive. She says, they're your kids, and I'll treat them as my own. If you get them, if we have to bring them down here, they're welcome. She says, obviously, and we've talked about it, is they need some sort of stability. Like I'm planted here in New Mexico. I just bought a house. I've been here since 2013, end of 2012. So, we're seated here. Like I said, I have no plans on moving or anywhere like that. We got both reliable transportation. The kids need, she agrees that, from what I've told her, that they probably will need some therapy, some help. She thinks that them being here would basically help, because like my son, Elijah, and Nicole, and even Lexi, sometimes they're like myself. They like to suppress feelings, but I think the way she says, you guys can heal together if you guys are together. So, but she's no,
school's question now. What if the boys were to say, hypothetically, if the boys were moved there together, together tomorrow, what would y'all do? Summer plans for the boys?
Summer plans. I've already checked into a few programs. There's a program in Paradise near Ventana Ranch Community Center that offers summer programs. Drop them off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon.
Okay. What do you think about homeschooling versus public school?
I mean, for some people it might work, but I think being in public school, especially if you're in a good IEP program, just the interaction with, kids that might be just like you or whatnot, I think that's very, very beneficial, to have that interaction with other kids instead of being secluded just in a home. Because, I mean, you want to build relationships, you want to have friends, you want to have little Johnny come over, spend the night and play video games on a weekend or something, or, go to the park, but I think public schools, they get a bad rap, but I think some good ones, work really well. So
what, the boys are now on, Texas insurance through the department.
Right.
Don't know this for sure, but this would be more of a CPS question. But if, they're not in Texas, I don't know how their medical stuff would work. Do you have medical insurance available for you to enroll the boys on, or what would we do about that?
Yes. I could get Medicaid for them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. One last question. It's not related to anything about the boys.
Sure.
Do you know a guy running for office in New Mexico named Anthony Thornton?
Pardon me. Can you say that again?
Do you know a guy running for public office in New Mexico named Anthony Thornton?
I don't believe so. It doesn't ring a bell.
He's related to me. That's why I was wondering.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
All right. Well, he's got my vote, Judge.
I think he ran for lieutenant governor last time, and I think he's running for House of Representatives. And they live, I think, Sandia Park. Is that near you, sort of?
No, that's Sandia Park's. Gosh, that's like in the mountain. Like, because in Albuquerque we have a big old mountain over here, so that's probably on the other side of the mountain.
It's on the other side. I've been there. It's on the other side of the mountain. They're not too far. But anyway,
no.
Look him up. He's a good guy. He's a rocket scientist at Sandia Labs.
You got it.
Hey, Judge,
Yeah.
briefly, for Mandy's sake, I was going to ask my client if Krista was on any medicine, any prescription drugs for mental health while y'all were together, and did she take those or anything diagnosed?
No.
Okay.
I never known her to take any kind of medications when we were together.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. That's a good question. Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Fernandez? No. Okay. Let's see. Mr. Wood, you called Mr. Fernandez, correct?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Miss Wright, any more witnesses? I'm sorry, Mr. Wood.
No,
No,
Your Honor.
Judge. Thank you.
No. Miss Wright, any witnesses? No. Miss McCary, you have something to say? No. Okay.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Kind of like this. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Mr. Butte, you on this case?
I am now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you had opportunity to meet the boys or meet placement or anything yet?
No, ma'am. This is my first day.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm Miss Wright. I'm not going to forget you. Does anybody else have any other witnesses or any more testimony?
Your Honor, my client is here now, and I think she has some things to say. I could ask her a couple of questions if that'd be okay.
Okay, Ms. Potts, go on.
Krista, can you please unmute yourself, Ms. Fernandez? I wanted to address one thing. You sent me some paperwork about the homeschool where your children were. Can you tell me what the name of the homeschool place was? It looks like she froze, Judge. Go ahead and log out, Ms. Fernandez, and come back on. And if I need to walk the judge through what you wanted to say, I will.
Judge, I'm wondering if Ms. Gilson would like to speak some. I know she's been in on some of the dialogues. And was on the case, talked to the kid. She may have some perspective as well.
Okay. But let's see what Mom has to say, then we'll get to Gilson. Ms. Fernandez, can you say something? Anybody hearing her beside? I'm not. Anybody hearing her? No?
Not hearing her.
Okay, Ms. Potts, why don't you just tell me?
Okay. So, Your Honor, Krista did enroll the children in a homeschool program. She felt like it was very, very important that they continue to do that program through the summer. She did that because of concerns about the school not following the IEP that she had for the kids. And she wanted to be sure that they were able to continue with their school. She sent me some paperwork here, which, sorry, I got to get close to see it, is from Orenda, O-R-E-N-D-A Education, which was where they were enrolled. And I sent it to all the parties, and it also has their shot records and all the rest of the information, which brings me to her second point, which was that she was concerned about the doctor's appointments being canceled. The department requested that they be canceled. And she said one of her sons had a condition that was important and he needed to see the doctor, and that it was reflecting on her because she, they're showing her as a no-show now at the doctor's office. And so she would like for the boys to be able to go to their appointment. She would like to be there with them because she knows their background. She knows their history. She knows what is important. And so she would like to be able to participate in that if at all possible. And she's working on getting the grades emailed to us from the school. I think also we are working on the divorce issue was brought up, and Mandy and I and Marcus are working on that. I believe Miss Krista has a signed copy. I just need to get to where I can get it scanned and sent out to everybody. She also, felt like that because the medical neglect that was alleged was bug bites, that was not appropriate for a removal. She felt like she had doctors lined up and they're not taking them to the doctor, so they're not getting the care they should. The condition of the home was an old home that they no longer lived in, and so that was not appropriate reason for removal. And that, yes, there may have been some arguing with the kids, but that she agreed to a safety plan where she would leave the house and move somewhere else. And she would still like to do the safety plan where she leaves the house and moves somewhere else so that the boys don't have to be disrupted. She would like for them to be where their toys are and their items are. And the rent is paid for there for a little bit, so she could stay at the house and still let the boys be there. I mean, she could leave the house and the boys could stay at the house with Austin and she could go somewhere else. She said she has the capacity to pay for a different place. I don't know. So, Ms. Fernandez, I think that is all I had for you, unless you want to text me something. Those were the points that you gave me.
Okay, Ms. Potts, when did she get the IEP and from where?
I can't hear her, so let me call her on the phone and see if she can tell me. Hold on.
Also, what are these doctor's appointments that you're talking about?
Okay, Your Honor, could I put her on the speakerphone since you can see her picture?
And does anybody else know, I mean, while I have everybody else here, does anybody know the answers to any of those questions?
Hold on. I'm sorry, Judge, I was talking to my client. Do you want me to put her on the speakerphone, Judge, so you can hear her answer?
Yes. You can say the questions again.
Okay, Ms. Hernandez? Ms. Fernandez?
Yes, I would like to go ahead.
Ms. Fernandez, hold on. The judge wants to know, what did you want to know? I'm sorry, Judge, the IEP?
Yeah, where did she get it from and what's the date of it? And where does she have a copy of it?
Okay, did you hear that?
Judge, I'm not sure she's been sworn.
Oh, yeah, true. Hold on. Good point, Mr. Wilson.
Hold on just a second.
Told her to raise your right hand, Ms. Potts.
Raise your right hand so the judge can swear you in. Raise your right hand so the judge can swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Potts.
So the judge wants to know where you got the IEP for the kids, what the date of it was, and can you get us a copy?
Okay, yes. So actually what I wanted to say was that my children have actually been on IEP since the first grade year. And both of them have had goals that they were very detailed and they met each year. And then in Galveston, we lived in Galveston, 5th grade in Galveston was actually the first grade of junior high. And that was the first year that they
Krista, can I interrupt you? The judge just wants to know if you have a copy of that or the date of it so we can get it and where it was, the last one.
That's what I'm trying to say is that they were actually removed from an IEP in 5th grade, and they passed with grade, they passed at grade level, and then they entered into the school here into 6th grade with no IEP. And I was trying to communicate with the teachers all the way through the first quarter of the month of the school, and we noticed that they started to fall behind. So they currently don't have an IEP. However, they've been on an IEP since they were in 1st grade. So I have every single IEP with every single goal and every single goal that they reached, as well as the future goals and the removal of the IEP. I have all of that documentation that I can send over. They currently do need an IEP once they enter into the new school year. It was that I got 2 different programs. One of them is ACELS, which I have done the homeschool program since December. And then I have the summer program that I've backed up with Monarch. And then I have my own curriculum. The twins have the tendency to actually regress over the summer. So they lose the information that they have learned each year on a very small scale. And I'm thinking because they've already started to regress, that we're going to really need to tackle hard individually on both of their specific needs. I've done this before with them, and I've gotten them caught up when they have fallen behind. But without the opportunity to be able to work individually with them face to face, which is what they're used to, we're probably going to be looking at repeating the 6th grade year. Both of them can actually test academically about the 5th grade 3rd semester year, which they just finished the 6th grade school year. So I can get them caught up to about the 6th grade to, I would say the 6th grade 2nd semester is the plan that I have in place. It's a very specific plan that I work with them on to do. Now that's based upon the academic guidelines of the charter school here, which is actually a college preparatory school. And that college preparatory academic plan and curriculum is different than just your regular public school plan. And so with that said, if I went off of the regular public school academic requirements, I would put them right at the 6th grade level for their academic abilities right now, which means that if I can start working back with them right now, which was actually supposed to start last week, so we're about a week behind on our curriculum, if I can put them back into that curriculum and keep it going, we should be able to get the 7th grade level, start a IEP at the 7th grade level again, and then they will be monitored and have their special services. This is not something that—
Judge, I'm going to object to the narrative.
Sustained.
Okay, Krista, that's enough. I think the judge got what she needed.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Potts, I need to know where are the doctor appointments that Ms. Fernandez is complaining about?
So actually, I did reschedule the doctor's appointment, and Austin was able to attend the doctor's appointments for the twins on Friday.
So where was it? Where was the doctor?
Scott and White here in Kingsland. and they have Isaiah got a prescription. It's a topical, I'm sorry, it was not the Kingsland, it was Marble Falls. Mine is in Kingsland. And so they got the topical ointment for the skin condition that Isaiah had. And that ointment is something pretty commonly used. That's with the antibiotic added to it. And they also have him on an oral antibiotic right now as well.
What was the name of the doctor?
Dr. Anderson.
Is that their regular doctor?
So that we were just
Primary care. Again, because we had just moved back here. And the doctors that they were going to before was actually at the Spot and White in Galveston, and they backed it with the teen center, which is through the school district. And I sent you over the current shot records, which is Isaiah and Isaac are needing one additional shot for their HPV, because it's a three shot. It's an immunization that's 3 shots needed. And so they'll be getting that, but we wanted to wait for Isaiah's scan to clear up. And another thing that I wanted to cover with the doctor's appointment. So the concern really was that Isaiah had that rash. The question was it bug bite? And so, ideally, normally you would look at that and you would see that maybe it would be bug bites. But everyone in the house would have bug bites if he had bug bites. And he actually has had this problem ongoing since he was a child. It's something that flares up every once in a while. It's usually seasonal. It's usually spring and fall. He has the tendency to scratch on it. But it's actually something that I get on my back sometimes as well. And the topical cream that we give him, sometimes he does have a allergic reaction to it. And so we have to really watch that because they'll get a red ring around it and swell. So as of right now, we're fine. Austin told me that he's fine with it at the reaction. And I had been in contact with the doctor as well. She called me while we were away from there, and I went over any concerns that I had. And other than that, they were healthy. And so I have kept up on their doctor's appointment, 100%. Like they always had their technical steps on time. They've had their immunizations on time. They had a hard time getting the immunization record. So when I enrolled them in school, I had to wait until they sent them. So they started them without it, and then I gave it to them afterwards.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions via Ms. Potts for Ms. Fernandez?
I'm sorry about that.
It's kind of hard to hear her.
Okay, until I came back over here. There's kind of an echo. I'm having problems with my internet service, and then my other device locked up. So I've had to call the internet company and get them to help me with this.
Ms. Potts, do you have anything else?
No, Your Honor. I believe we've covered it all, Krista.
I'm sorry, what was I saying?
I said, I believe I've covered everything with you. Are you okay with the kids going for a visit with Mr. Fernandez this summer sometime?
I think that I wanted to cover that kind of in depth. Joseph and I have been together for 24 years. I'm sorry, married legally for 24 years. For 12 years of that, we have actually been separated. The twins have been with me.
Objection, Your Honor. That's non-responsive.
Hold on. I'll let her answer. I'll let her answer your question.
All right.
Go ahead, Krista.
Okay, so the twins both have special needs, mostly academic, a lot of speech, and I've noticed that Isaiah's speech has regressed significantly, meaning that neither one of them are they're not on the same speech level. With that divorce piece, I filed for that divorce 2.5 years ago in Galveston. I was told by Galveston County in December of last year that divorce had been finalized and closed. At that point in time, that was a divorce with a non-contested divorce with minor children. And then I go in to get my driver's license here, and I tried to get it with my maiden name, and they said, well, we need a copy of the finalized divorce decree. And at that point, I had called Galveston to get that, and they said that it was still open. And it had everything. So 2.5 years it sat in the court dockets without them closing it. Now, in that non-contested divorce with minor children, that would state that Joseph and I would each hold 50-50 conservatorship of Isaac and Isaiah and Elijah. And then inside of that, there's also a AOP, which is to release the rights from Joseph to Austin for the child of the marriage, which is Austin Ellison Jr. And
Ms. Potts, have a degree or any kind of order. I don't need to hear about all this because it doesn't mean anything without a final order.
Right. Okay. So we don't need to go through the divorce, is what she's saying, because we don't have the documents. We can do that later. But what I have a copy of the unsigned copy. But here's what we need. Here's what we
finalized, ma'am.
Here's what we
everything.
Here's what we need from you right now. We need to know if you're okay with the kids going on a visit for a couple of weeks, sometime in the summer.
So with the current situation, okay, yes, I have no problem with Joseph visiting. That was never an issue, and that's the reason that we had the 50-50 consideration.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Okay, so she said yes.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have anything? I mean, I don't need to hear from anybody, but anybody have anything else for Ms. Potts? No.
Well, Judge, I feel like I kind of have to ask the mothers at least a few questions.
Okay, go on, Mr. Wilson.
Ms. Fernandez, my name is Rob Wilson. I represent CPS in this case. You had a visit with the boys where you went to see them at CPS offices, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And how did that go?
So the visit went well, very awkward. The twins are a little bit hard to connect with, and environmentally that was actually
You know,
did CPS have to stop you and interrupt the visit a couple of times to get you to stop talking about inappropriate subject matter with the boys?
no,
You don't remember that? Okay.
inappropriate talk with the boys at all.
Yep.
I can understand a word she's saying.
what? I think she just said no, but I could, if she, hold on. I just
There
need,
was no inappropriate talk with the boys at all during that.
okay, hold on, stop. Do you want me to take her off? I mean, if she gets off of Zoom, then you can hear her on the phone and then it won't be that feedback thing.
Yeah, that's,
Krista, can you close off of the Zoom, but stay on the phone so they can hear you? We can't hear with the feedback.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
I can take her off.
Okay. Okay, I'm here.
All right, Rob, this should go easier.
All right. I'll proceed then, Judge. Ms. Fernandez, Austin has let you see the boys a couple of times since they moved out. Isn't that true?
So actually what happened, okay, so can we go back to the question that you asked me? So you're saying that there was
Oh,
allocation?
man, I'm on a different question right now. Will you give me a yes or no? Has Austin let you see the boys?
So I ran into them. They were in the parking lot of Dollar General. They were there. I was there, and I did see them. Yes.
Okay. And as soon as you saw them, did you turn around and leave?
No, I hugged them.
Okay. You weren't supposed to do that, were you?
I just don't understand why I can't see my children. If this is so, I've been targeted, sir. This is not appropriate. This is not the mother that I am with my children. I don't know what you mean by these inappropriate accusations. I had zero inappropriate conversation. As a matter of fact, the representative, Alma, of the CPS inside of the lobby, she told me that no matter what I do, that the judge was going to rule with her anyway. No matter what I did, even if I did exactly what she said I should do, that the judge was going to rule on her side. And she had a recorder on her neck. This was in the lobby at the time that I was visiting. And this is also something that Morgan, the person at the CPS, the CPS receptionist, had told me. I didn't have any inappropriate conversations. I was not.
All right, Ms. Fernandez, I'm going to ask you a different question now. Did you call law enforcement or 911 to tell them your children had been kidnapped?
I did call and I asked them if, yes, I said I believe my children had been kidnapped. I thought that they were in front, and I soon to find out that they had not. So I thought that they were supposed to be, with the person that Austin appointed them to be, and I didn't realize that they were with a person differently. So I ended up pulling out behind them. I was going out of town. I was leaving over by the Burnett County line, and they were out behind. I ended up behind them, and I didn't realize that they were with somebody that they weren't supposed to be.
Ms. Fernandez, you thought that Alma Becerra had kidnapped your children. Isn't that true?
I'm sorry?
You thought that Alma Becerra with CPS had kidnapped your children. Isn't that true?
I didn't know who it was, but I saw my kids in the back of it. I didn't think. I definitely think that Alma is targeting my family. I will tell you that. But yeah. I did not thought that she kidnapped them. I said I believe that my kids have been taken unlawfully and that they are in front of me. And then I stopped, and I figured at that point I tried to call Austin. He was not available. Yeah, I mean, it was a little strange to see them in somebody else's vehicle when they're my kids, and they're usually either with Austin, is who I thought they were with all the time. I don't understand why I'm being made out to be this person. I have been targeted for unknown reasons, and I do believe that Alma has something completely out against me. She also admitted with the officer and Julie, the CASA officer, that this agency has demised me over and over again. She says, yes, sir, that is correct. But the police officer that was here to speak to me about a mental health evaluation, as well as Julie from CASA. She says, this woman has been demised. Our agency has demised this woman over and over and over again. Those were Alma's exact words.
All right, Ms. Fernandez, I've got a different question for you now. Have you ever told anyone that you were being listened to by devices in your walls or being watched or by cars in the street, anything like that?
Yes. So there was a point in time that I was actually being followed when we were living at the home that we were living at prior to this one. I had reported to Austin that we were actually that we had been followed, or that I was being followed. It was a couple of different vehicles. It was two different types of construction trucks and things like that. But it wasn't.
Who was that, Ms. Fernandez? Who was following you?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure who is following me, but it has stopped since then. And there's not any concern that I have at all. It was usually when I was 3 or 4 times, they would follow me like specific trucks, like a black truck and then a blue truck, but I have not had that problem at all since then.
So, Ms. Fernandez, you've been asked by Ms. Becerra and her supervisors and Ms. Gilson and probably your attorney as well to get some mental health evaluations and some mental health care. Isn't that true?
I just lost her. Let me try again. I lost her and she didn't pick up. She's probably still talking. So I'll try again in a second. Okay, I have her. Krista? Krista? Krista?
The speaker's on.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sorry. The speaker must not be working on here. My phone is just died.
Okay.
So are we all set? Can you hear me, Ms. Fernandez?
Yes, sir, I can. I apologize for that.
That's okay. That happens. So my question was, have you been asked by Ms. Becerra and her supervisors and Ms. Gilson and other people in this case to get a mental health evaluation?
Yes, I have.
And have you gotten that evaluation?
So the
yes or no, please, ma'am. Have you gotten that evaluation?
Yes, you did give me that evaluation. I also have a evaluation that is scheduled. So first of all, I explained to them that I feel like the mental health piece of it is not the concern, but I do have that scheduled to get the mental health evaluation, which is, they said 2 to 3 hours is what it'll take. And then Wednesday, I actually have the women's health side of it, which is, I believe my hormones have been a little bit off balance. And so I think that's going to definitely play a role in some of my, might help stabilize my mood.
So who are you going to see for the mental health evaluation, Ms. Fernandez?
I'm sorry?
Who are you going to see for the mental health evaluation?
So I actually have two different appointments. I have one scheduled with a Whitestone, which is a counseling session or a counseling facility that I actually went to when I lived here in 2017. So I'm going to be doing it as a return client. And that one's going to be in office with the counselor. And they recommended that I went to Bluebonnet. I've left 3 messages with Bluebonnet, which actually Bluebonnet in this area doesn't do the mental health evaluations. They go through the Hill Country Mental Health, and I have not heard back from them. I can get a second evaluation if need be from Connie Black, is another licensed counselor, in which I would be probably doing my follow-up with her. And the reason being is because it is here in Kingsland, and that's just a little bit better of a, it's easier for me to get to somebody that's local. Now, the Whitestone one is in Marble Falls, and just because I was a return client, it's the reason that I was hoping to be able to get to that. And they also do the family counseling sessions. I do have a referral from the boys' doctor to get them to go to the Phoenix Center. And I was hoping to be able to get maybe some family counseling or counseling just for Austin and I through one of these 2 doctors that I'm going to do my mental health evaluation with, and then get the boys going to the Phoenix Center. And I've been working on getting them an appointment for that as well.
All right. So Ms. Fernandez, let me ask you this. Do you realize that at least a normal just counselor or therapist is not going to be qualified to give you a full-blown psychological or psychiatric evaluation? So we're going to need you to go somewhere else. Will you go somewhere else too?
Well, I have left the messages for the Bluebonnet, and the reason that I went to the family practices is because the Hill Country Mental Health has not called me back. And so when you call Bluebonnet and you talk to them about,
I'm sorry, I don't need to know about when you call Bluebonnet, but you will go to whatever evaluation you're asked to go to. Is that correct?
I mean, within reason. So to be honest with you, sir, I have no background of any sort of mental health problems. I did have a diagnosis of anxiety with a depression piece to that, but I really, I have no problem going and getting, just a short mental health evaluation and backing it up a couple of times. But as far as the question or the reason behind why I would need to do this with no mental health being a problem in my past other than anxiety, I'm just a little bit confused as to why that would be something that would be needing to be addressed.
Okay.
And I have done the work
You
to
realize, Ms. Fernandez, you realize that the state of Texas has taken your children and is asking to get temporary custody of them today for up to a year. You realize that?
I do, sir, and I really would like to oppose the the initial removal of the children.
And I'm still asking you questions, Ms. Fernandez. So if you're asked to go as part of a case, I hear you telling us you're not going to go. That could be that could turn into a problem. Don't you see that?
I'm saying that I don't have a problem with it if I, was doing the evaluation that is required. As far as the facility location or things like that, I would like to be able to choose that on my own.
All right. Judge, I'm going to pass the witness at this point.
I'm sorry?
Anybody else have any questions, Ms. Fernandez?
Just one, Judge.
Ms. Wright?
Ms. Fernandez, my name is Sonia Wright. I represent your children in this case. I wanted to just ask you a couple questions. Do you have any family history of mental illnesses?
So my anxiety, depression, I have a brother that he's a year older than me, that has some mental health problems in the past, but he since has overcome that. I believe it was more of an environmental kind of situational is the way I'd look at it. He was not actually diagnosed with anything to the best of my knowledge. But no, I don't have any other than that. I have my mother, my father, neither one of them have had any sort of past mental health issues or anything like that.
You have a brother who was diagnosed with schizophrenia?
I don't believe he was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia. I believe that he was having some problems. I think that he was actually using drugs at that period of time. This was about 15 years ago. And my mom had reached out for some help with him, and there was something going on with that. I'm actually really not that close to my family. I speak to them once in a while, but I'm not really involved in them at that level of a deal. My brother's very successful in real estate. I do know that, and I would say that if there was any sort of mental concerns at all, that would be something that would be affecting his life in general. And I do know that he has been very successful in his real estate career, and I would suspect that he's past that. So no, there's not any mental health concerns whatsoever. I believe that the concerns that the courts are having, or the case, anybody, CPS, anybody, is actually based upon just the reaction that I had when the children were being removed. And I'm not really exactly sure how somebody would be expected to react when they are being removed unjustly at that point. So what happened is that CPS handed me the phone, Alma handed me the phone, and she told me that she would have, she said, here, talk to this person. And so I spoke to the person on the phone, and they said that they were going to have a mental health person come to the house right then and have a mental health evaluation done on me. And depending on what that outcome was, then what they would do at that point is they would determine whether or not that would avoid the boys being removed. And so as we're waiting for that person to come and do that mental health evaluation here at the house, Alma and the other CPS worker that was here, I believe her name was Cherie, she comes in and they just do the removal right then and there. So I didn't get the opportunity for that person to come here when that person told me that they would work with Alma and they would get them here right away. That was like an hour that we waited, and then all of a sudden no one showed up. And she
Let me stop you there. Have you ever had any history of suicidal attempts or thoughts of that?
No, I do not have any past mental history. So I was on an anxiety medication about 9 years ago, and it was the very first and the only mental health or anxiety medication that I had ever taken, and it was pretty strong. And I had a really bad reaction to it, and I went to the hospital, and they ended up releasing me, but it was definitely a not good medication for my system. It was something that my system just could not handle.
What medication was
no
that?
suicidal thoughts, no, even if it was something I thought about, it's definitely not something that I would be capable of doing. I don't have that in me. Like I have a lot of reason to live, and these little boys are actually that reason that I have to live. And not having them around me on a daily basis is very, especially when I went from their full-time teacher, homeschool teacher, and they're home with them all day long. And never have I ever not had my children with me since I've been a mother since I was 16 years old. My oldest daughter is 28. And then I have another daughter and son. And
okay, let me interrupt you. Are you currently on any medication?
So I am on an anxiety medication, which is it's the generic of the lorazepam, which is it's just a low dose anxiety medication. And then I have a PRN that would back that for any sort of like increase in my anxiety, like for it to really jump up to another level. I actually haven't taken the PRN because it's not something that I have needed. And when I go to the doctor on Wednesday, which is what I'm going to in San Saba, that's where my primary care doctor is, I was going to speak to her about the doses that I have of my anxiety. But to be honest with you, I feel like my anxiety is at a better level than it has ever been my entire life with the medications that I'm on. Now, the medication piece of it, I've struggled with, or I've lived with anxiety my entire life. And it's something that I've been able to manage without medication just because I'm more of a natural type of person. If I can avoid taking medications, I prefer that. And all of a sudden with my, I guess my menopausal stage, the medication that I have seems to be maybe not allowing me that level, that balance that I've had this entire time, not to the point where it's unmanageable. It's not to the point where I can't handle it. It's just that it's not managing that stable, consistent.
Okay. And what was the as needed medication?
The PRN, let me see. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like let me see if I can get it. It's the label's kind of off of it. ESCATECPLE. And it's a generic of like a Prozac.
Okay.
Similar to what it is. And that one, actually, I have only taken 2 of that PRN.
And that one's just as needed. You're not supposed to take it every day.
No, that one's an as needed. They're in the 5 milligram tabs, and I can take up to 10 milligrams per day. So I could take 2 tabs per day, and I could take them both at once, or I could take them as needed.
And your lorazepam, what's the dosage on it?
The dosage on that is, it's also 10 milligrams. I can take up to 20 milligrams on that, but I stayed at 10 milligrams consistently on that. Let me see if I can. And I usually take them, they're 10, I usually take 2 of them, and I take them in the morning or the nighttime because they do make me pretty sleepy. They put me to the point where I just really level out here. Yeah, so 10 milligrams. And I increased that from 5 milligrams to 10 within about a week of starting to take them, and I stayed at that one.
Okay. And you take that at night, is that correct?
Or anything else other than women's health. And so that's kind of the thing that I struggle with, is that to get these paid for, we actually have to pay for these out of pocket, but it's not really that much.
Okay. And I just so I understand, you take the lorazepam at night, is that correct?
Well, sometimes I'll take it in the morning if I forget to take it at night, but most of the time I take it at night, yes.
And who is your medical doctor, your primary care?
My primary care doctor is Courtney Kraft.
And you said she was in
That's who I'm seeing on Wednesday.
Okay. All right, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, Ms. Fernandez?
I'm sorry?
Nothing. I was talking to lawyers. Okay, Ms. Wilson, I'm happy to hear from everybody. Let's get you.
All right. Thank you, Judge. Well, heard a lot of testimony today, Judge. The department's position, of course, is that these boys need to be stable and safe, and they've not had that. You've heard Ms. Becerra's testimony about what she went through trying to even work with this family, giving them options, giving them alternatives to removal, and the family just wouldn't have it. And so we didn't have any choice but to remove, to keep these boys safe between physical neglect, emotional neglect, and even possible abuse, and exposing the boys to domestic violence and the mother's mental health issues that have continued to go unaddressed, and that she still refuses really to address in the way that she's been asked by everyone in this case. So we certainly are going to do our best to work with the family, and we understand the issues on our hands here, but for the sake of the boys, you know, we need to keep temporary custody of them until we know things are stable and we've got the right, good, safe home for them to go to.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wood.
Judge, my client has not had a lot of contact with these children, but it wasn't all from his own doing. I think he's presented all the facts regarding himself. He's opened himself up. He's availed himself to everything that's been asked of him. I would like to have him considered as either a visit or a placement to reestablish that relationship. I do think there's a lot to get worked through, but my client's ready and has a support network ready to help get these kids into a stable place and a stable environment.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Potts. Should have done you first. I forgot. Before Mr. Wood. Okay.
That's okay, Your Honor. I'm having trouble over here anyway. So, I apologize. I'm trying to make this work here. So, Your Honor, what I would have to say is that there was no medical neglect because the bug bites weren't bug bites. She already had an appointment set up for the little boy to go to the doctor. That appointment was canceled at the request of the department. The other one, the condition of the home, she no longer lived in that home, and the new home is in good condition according to the department. And there was some arguing and fighting with the kids, but there's no reason why a safety plan should not be appropriate in this case. The mother did say she agreed. She had 2 appointments set up, one with her medical doctor and also one with a therapist to try to get her mental health assessment. And so based upon that, we don't believe that the facts are sufficient in the affidavit to warrant a removal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gilson, do you have anything you want to say?
Oh, I have plenty.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I've met with the kids. I've met with Austin. I've met with Krista. Part of what I think Krista is not necessarily taking a look at is the fact that her partner is very concerned. It's obvious that he loves her very much, but he is concerned and he is worried, and that she doesn't seem to be taking that under consideration as being a big enough deal to warrant going ahead and getting the mental health evaluation. She waited literally until this morning. She did not have these appointments until this morning. And that's partially because I saw her yesterday and said, you've got to get a move on. But these 2 places, neither one of them are psychiatric care. And that's the element that we really need to see is her psychiatric care. Some things she doesn't seem to remember. I know she's very upset. I know she's upset about the boys, and that makes perfect sense to be upset. But it seems off. It seems off. She seems to need some serious mental health issues. It sounds like if somebody's giving her generic Prozac, somebody's been looking at her and thought she needed some help. So if it wasn't Prozac, and I can't imagine using a generic Prozac and only using it PRN. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're on an antidepressant of that sort or mood disorder, that's a daily thing, every day. And if it doesn't work, you try something else. So I have concerns there. I have concerns about the housing because to expect a Good Samaritan to continue to pay your housing is unrealistic. And there aren't any other places. I'm concerned if the boys in Austin are moving back to the house, I don't know where she's going. Did we establish that? I don't remember establishing that, but where would she go? I'm concerned that in the 2-week time, she's managed to try and see the boys. She found them at the Dollar General, and I know there's another little instance too. And I understand that she wants to see her kids, but she doesn't understand that these are the boundaries, these are the rules, this is how you have to do it. She's so mad at CPS that she's not willing, she wants to do it her way and only her way, and seems to kind of have a conspiracy attitude that all of CPS, and what she said, Alma said, it was absolutely not true. I mean, I don't know where it came from. So I have concerns that until we have a solid evaluation, until she can get some real help and we can get some help for the family, that the boys are going to just be in chaos. I think an extended visit with the dad, Joseph, during the summer, why not? See how it goes. This is a man who's raised the other 3 relatively on his own. I mean, if they'd gotten a divorce before, she would have had to pay child support. He would have been chained, and all of that. I'm not trashing her. What I'm saying is I'm worried about her. I am seriously worried about her, and she is clinging on, thinking everything's just fine. And if her kids were back, everything would be just fine. And I don't think that would happen. I spent quite a bit of time with Austin. I'm sorry he's not on here, but I spent a lot of time with him. He gave me a whole lot of background and a lot of background of things that had happened over several years and episodes, psychotic episodes she's had over a period of years. And it just keeps rolling forward. And I don't think that's fair to her, nor is it fair to the rest of the family to act like nothing's happened and it's just going to get better on its own, because that does not happen. There, I think I'm through.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Butte, anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wright?
Judge, I did visit with the kids. So, my job is their advocate. They don't want to go live with Mr. Fernandez and they don't want to have a visit with him. Excuse me. But the situation that they're in at the little tiny home it's really just not a long-term thing. They're all really in one room and there's like a little tiny loft where you can not really even stand up. You can probably sit up, and that's where the boys are sleeping. I haven't been to their new tiny home or wherever they're at. No one has let me know that, so I don't know where they're at now. But I do. There's been some rumors that mom's seeing them, and it sounds like she admitted to at least one instance. And I just don't think she's going to leave them alone until she gets some help. So I can explain to the boys whatever the court's decision is, but that's their official position is they don't want to go.
Okay.
And Judge, I did have permission from Mr. Westland to say this, and that is he is not going to abandon this family. He is going to pay for that rent. He really has asked for Ms. Fernandez to get help, and he is standing by Ms. Fernandez and the whole family to try to get this done. And I'm just now telling Ms. Fernandez this as we speak.
Okay. Ms. Potts, your client had filled out her application for court-appointed attorney.
I know, Your Honor, I'm trying.
Ms. Fernandez, you need to fill that out like by tomorrow, or you're not going to have a lawyer anymore.
Judge Joseph had his hand raised. Briefly, Joseph, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say that if they were to come to New Mexico, me and Lexi have been in discussions, and she does plan to be here at the same time they're here to kind of get them adjusted to being in New Mexico. Now, of course, they don't want to come here because they don't know me. I haven't seen them since they were 1. But, I promise that they will be safe here. They'll have a home. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joseph.
And Judge, I did also want to add, we did see pictures of Mr. Fernandez's home. It seemed very appropriate. I haven't seen anything inappropriate on his side. There was something else too. It escapes me, but I haven't seen anything, inappropriate from his side of it. It's just, the boys and their desires, they're kids, they're resilient. So I think whatever, if they do have to go, I think they'll be okay.
Your Honor, can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I was on the Zoom call, observing the Zoom call, which we mentioned earlier. It was over an hour, and they had really good conversation. Joseph asked him, what's your favorite food? What do you like to eat? Do you like sports? Do you have any teams that you like to support? And they would talk about that, and they kind of went back and forth. I was really impressed with the questions that he asked, that he really listened to what they had to say, that he responded, and that at first it was a little awkward, but as it went on, they hung in there. They all had a good conversation. And I was really impressed with Mr. Fernandez's desire to get to know these boys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to name the department as the boys' temporary managing conservator. Our status hearing is going to be 7/17/24. Mr. and Ms. Fernandez, between now and then, the department will have a meeting called a family group conference. And at that family group conference, that's where your service plan will be developed. And I tell everybody at every hearing, you have to comply with your service plan, or your parental rights could be subject to termination. Does that, lawyers in Casa, do y'all agree that all the hearings can be held via Zoom? Okay.
Yes.
The boys can visit Mr. Fernandez for 30 days in the summer, as agreed by CPS and the ad litems. I don't want any placement change without agreement of CPS and the ad litems. Mom and Austin are to submit to hair strands by 3 p.m. on 6/5/24. Hold on just a second. I'm also going to say nail test too, because if Mom's dyed her hair, that's not going to work.
What was the date, Judge, for the hair and nail test?
3 p.m. by 6/5/24 on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay, CPS is to set up a psychiatric evaluation on Ms. Fernandez, and she is to follow all the recommendations. Her court-appointed attorney application is due by 3 p.m. on 6/5/24. Mr. and Mrs. Fernandez can Zoom 2 times a week as arranged by placement, CPS, and ad litems. Ms. Fernandez can visit 1 time per week at the CPS office. She is to follow all the CPS rules, or the in-person visits cease. Zoom calls can last 30 minutes each. That's like 30 minutes for Mom, 30 minutes for Dad one day, 30 minutes for Mom, 30 minutes for Dad, whatever they talk about. An hour is pretty long. If Miss Fernandez did not submit to her hair and nail test, then she's not going to get any in-person visits. It's just going to be on Zoom, because I need a hair test. Miss Becerra has been asking for it for a while. Okay. Okay, well, good luck to everybody, and I hope by the next hearing, another thing I want to do, and I don't really know how to do it when we're not in school, maybe Mr. Wilson can help with this. The boys need to be evaluated or something, so if they do go to school, public school in the fall, we get them immediately into programs that they can be involved in. I don't want to get them there in school and I got 45 days to evaluate them, and then we've just blown off 45 days. So we need to see what we can do to get that ball rolling too. If they need to go see a psychologist or what, we need to, it's not fair to these kids that just because everybody's off during summer, that all their services stop. That's just garbage, if you ask me. I don't like that. Especially if they have that high need, they need to be in services all year long. So we need to look into that also. But like I said, by the next hearing, I hope that the boys would have already done a visit or the visits planned, because, July 17th is our next hearing, and I don't know when school starts, but it seems like it starts a lot earlier than it should these days. So, I don't mind having, and the boys be there. That's okay. But, we don't need to, we need to have a visit pretty much to give them time to be with Austin now for a little bit, and then give them time to be back with Austin before they get back to school. I don't want a visit to end, 2 days before the boys got to go to school. So, okay, well, good luck to everybody, and I'll see y'all on July 17th via Zoom, unless we do something else before then. Thank you. Y'all are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.